Welcome to Get Motivated with Donato Parisi, a show designed to reach you where you are, focusing on the fact that you can be anything you want and desire. All you have to do is get motivated. If you need a challenge in your life, then look no further. Get Motivated with Donato begins now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Get Motivated with Donato. I'm your host, Donato. And today we have a special guest here, Dr. Lisa Yvette Jones. So happy to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I appreciate this opportunity.
Yes, so thank you, Lisa, for coming on board here with us today.
Absolutely.
And helping to get everybody motivated. I just want everybody to know that, Lisa here is a coach, a mentor, a speaker, a teacher, an author. She's been in both books that I've been in. And we're just so excited to have her here today to be able to instill in you this, the zeal for life that she has, really.
Yes.
And how she helps people out each and every day. So again, welcome, Lisa. Glad to have you here. To start off, I want to just ask you a simple icebreaker question that I ask most everyone here. And it's simple. If you could meet anybody, be it past or present, who would it be and why?
You know what? I thought about that, and then I said, I really would love to meet Dr. Martin Luther King. And I know that, he's so popular, and it was like, why him? Actually, between him and Mother Teresa, to be honest with you. But Dr. Martin Luther King, because I said, when I look at that time, and I look at all the atrocities that happened during the time of civil rights, I just really wanted to talk to him about how God was speaking to him to maintain the nonviolence. Because there's so much that, I look at and then I go, wow, would I have been as humbled, to still maintain that after witnessing everything. And I just would want to talk to him and say, what kept you? And I'm sure he may say the Holy Spirit or the fight or, that motivation that on the other side of this, he was probably looking already on the other side. And I would just really love to sit down with him to say, how did you do it? How did you maintain that? And you had so much influence over hundreds of thousands of people. What did it take to maintain that influence? Because as you know, I'm a leadership coach, trainer, a speaker and teacher. And one of the things about leadership is influence. It's influence. And if he did not have influence, oh my goodness, I don't know who did. So that's the area that I would want to speak to him about, maintaining that influence of nonviolence. How powerful. It sent the message that was just absolutely powerful. I like that, that he had that type of influence. I'm just wondering what I would have done during that time. So it would be great to sit at his feet to hear what he would have to say.
Yeah, wow. No doubt. I mean, it was an honor meeting his son when we were in Atlanta together.
Oh, come on, yes.
I mean, that was just so cool. I mean, beyond words or measure there.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you. I have often wondered or thought or respected him in the regards that, I mean, he was a pastor like myself. He preached the word. And that's what the movement really, I mean, we see it kind of differently as far as it was the civil rights movement. And yes, absolutely it was. But it was like equality for all men, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, he was just preaching the Bible.
He was living the word, which is what we're supposed to do. He did it. And I know that the question, even when I thought about it, I said, it sounds silly. And I said, well, Lisa, you're taking it from the point of influence and the fact that how did he maintain that influence in all of those people to have that? Because I don't believe everybody was following the Bible.
No.
So that influence that he had to have them follow him, it was almost like I hear it, as Paul say, follow me as I follow Christ.
That's right.
He lived that.
That's right. He did. Oh no, absolutely. And and the whole turn the other cheek thing.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
I'm Italian. We run out of cheeks after a while. You know?
Oh my goodness, I'm not Italian. I can believe it. I must have it in my blood because I'm going, wow. So yeah, I just always thought about that. And just
Yeah,
would
no,
love to set
that's
it in.
amazing. So that's awesome. I definitely relate and appreciate that too.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a lot of things already. You know, you're a businesswoman. You your company is called iC.A.R.E Leadership, so you're
Yes.
really into leadership. I mean, that's a big thing for me as well. I
Mhm.
mean, I guess let's just jump into that part of it, being that we're kind of there. You were in the book here, Coach Doctors with me,
Yes.
right? And this was a fantastic workbook. I
Love it.
recommend this to everyone. I mean, because this is an actual workbook. It's not just a book. It's going to help you in your life to, just put things in order, right?
Absolutely.
We all
Absolutely.
put different kinds of chapters, and we all have our unique perspectives. And this is just beyond motivational, right?
I've used it. I've already used it with a client. I listen, I was so glad to get it. And for me to look at this project and see the power of it, not just because I was in it, but even if I was not, just what we did, what the work in this book, the vision behind this was just so powerful. I really have not seen anything like it. And
Yeah,
I actually took it to work with me to use it with someone that I was coaching, and it was just amazing. And yes, I'm a workpreneur, so I still work a full-time job as well, and doing everything that I'm doing.
that's awesome. I mean, hey, we all gotta do something, right? And
Yes,
that's been also the point of the show, right? It's get motivated.
yes,
It's kind of becoming my tagline, I guess. Get up off the couch and
that's
get
right.
motivated. Um, because we need to. I mean, it's so easy to just sit on the couch and do nothing or lack motivation. I mean,
Yeah,
we probably are all that way at some point in time, but I really believe we're kind of getting into this day and time where we have really got to get up off that couch. We really got to start motivating ourselves and motivating others so that, we can start turning around, you know, this country, this world, whatever,
absolutely,
and start bettering, humanity,
absolutely.
and so much more. I mean, it's hard to even describe. And I just think we're living in that time that we really gotta, you know, take some action, right?
I do. I
So
believe that too.
with that in mind, I mean, from your perspective, when you hear get motivated, what does that mean to you?
You know what I when I hear that, it tells me to take action. To take action. What are your motives? And what is on the other side of the action? What is it that you're really looking to accomplish? And I was looking at something earlier because motivate, the root word is motive. And so I was in the American, dictionary of English language, and it says motive as a noun. It says that which incites to action, that which determines the choice or moves the will. Oh my goodness. Thus, we speak of good motives, bad motives, weak motives, strong motives. The motive to continue at rest or ease or satisfaction. The motive to change is uneasiness or a prospect of good. So I just said, so, and then definition number 2, it says that which may or ought to incite to action. Isn't that powerful? Incite to action,
That's
reason
awesome.
or cause. And then definition number 3 just simply says a mover, a mover. So, what is it that incites me to action? When I think about my health,
Good.
I think about how back in 2009, being diagnosed with stage 3 cervical cancer, no symptoms, no irregularities, going along with my life like it was nothing, just a regular, life. And, but I did have some things that were going on. We did have some things that were going on with my mother. She had just suffered a stroke. And, so she was in rehabilitation. Thankfully, it was a mild stroke at the time. And, so after, you're caring for someone, and as a caregiver, we at times will pull back from ourselves, until we see that they're doing well. Well, it was at the time that she was being dismissed from rehabilitation to come home is when it dawned on me, you haven't been to the doctor, Lisa. You need to go get checked.
Yep.
You want to make sure, excuse me, that you're not on the verge of any of the illnesses and sicknesses that my mother went through. And so that was my motivation too, was that the things that my mother suffered or went through, I felt that we could change the trajectory of that for our family. And I don't have to live her story, okay, and her life and the things that she was worried about or were concerned about. That doesn't have to be my story. Those are the things that I looked at and said, I don't want that to be hereditary. Oh no. If my mother was a person who worried, I did not want that on me. I love my mother, and definitely she's gone on to be with the Lord now, but I would have loved, that my mother would have changed that. But I figure you can only change yourself. I can't change anyone else. So
Right.
what I did was I set out, let me go to my appointments, let me make the appointments, and then receive the news that I was diagnosed with stage 3 cervical cancer. And that if I did not have surgery within a week, 3 to 5 days or 3 to 7 days, that they would not even open me up, that it would spread so fast that there would be no use and that I would die. So that was death sentence number 1. And then, of course, at that moment, you're hearing something like that. Well, for me, it didn't make sense. And for me, things have to make sense. That's just how I am. And because it didn't make sense to me, I told the doctor, well, I need a second opinion. And I need to go, before the chief physician. I need to, I said, I need to take some time is what I told him. So I got the second opinion, and that doctor said, this is a very vicious one. It really is a vicious one. Totally independent, biopsy and pathological report. He said, and it's already spread from where it was to the other areas in my cervical area and uterus and what have you. And I said, okay, so I need to take time. He said, ma'am, all I need you to do is take the time to decide who's going to do your surgery, whether it's me, the other doctor, or someone else, but this needs to be done quickly. Well, I'm not the type that feels that, well, I need to run quickly right now. So I said, I need to take this time. He told me, time you don't have. I said, time I must take. I must take this time. So I went on a fast for 3 days. And on the third day is when the Lord called me into the ministry. And I said, aha, that's what the enemy was after. And then that motivated me. That motivated me to start seeing myself on the other side of this, because the fight was on. And I knew the fight wasn't in my physical fist with my fist balled up like I have now. But I knew where I was doing battle on my knees is where I needed to be. And then the Lord said this is not unto death. It will never return again. You shall live and not die. I was like, I'm already on the other side of this. So I started living from my prognosis, from my chief physician, and not from the diagnosis from the doctors. I respect them. I respect doctors highly, but I had to rely on the prognosis from my chief physician. I then told the doctor the date that I will have the surgery. And I told him June 29th. Why June 29th? Well, because we had paid for our son to go to camp and we were not going to waste that money. Okay. So I said, well, if my son is going to camp and we have to have him at the church at 4:00 in the morning, you're scheduling my surgery for 6, that would be perfect, because I didn't want him to know about the surgery. I wanted him to enjoy his camping trip. But I did have to tell him about the diagnosis. And so on June 29th, I had that surgery because the doctor, he looked at me in May and said, why do I have the feeling I'm going to see you on June 29th? I said, because I consulted my chief physician. He said, you went over my head? I said, I went over all of our heads. And I pointed to the sky and he said, I see. He said, I'll see you on June 29th. I said, you sure will. And here I am 14 years later.
Wow. I mean, there is just so much to that. I mean, wow, praise God, you're a cancer survivor, right?
Yes.
I mean, stage 3 is no joke,
No.
I mean, I can't even imagine. And, what I heard in my spirit, and this is just kind of, you know,
That's fine.
is that, or what I felt like. I mean, what you did was like the woman with the issue of blood.
Yes.
You got down on your hands and knees, and you were
Yes.
like, if I can only touch his hem, I will
Exactly.
be healed. I will be whole. I will be well. And
Yes.
and that's the thing, because she casted aside everything. She literally crawled on the ground through the crowd, and at
Yes.
any moment she could have bled to death.
Absolutely. Or been trampled to death, right?
Yeah, and but against all odds, and one could say common sense,
Mm.
all she did was just reach for the hem. She knew she would be healed.
Mm.
And that's what spoke to me. That's what you did. You had
Yeah.
great faith that just
Wow.
came out from that experience, because you knew if you could only see the face of God, if you could only reach out to him and get that diagnosis from him, right? Or that
Yes.
prognosis,
Absolutely.
as you were
Prognosis.
calling
Yeah.
it. And that all would be well, right? That was the
Wow.
other lady going to Elijah, right? All is well. Her boy's sitting
All
at
is
home
well.
dead. All is
Yep.
well.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
Right?
Yeah. And you just never know. And you know what? And I thank you for that, Pastor Donato, because no one has ever, and all the people I've ever talked to all these years, and I've been on tons of podcasts and television shows and written books, 7. And listen, no one has ever, I've never compared that to the woman with the issue of blood. So thank you for that. I'm sitting here listening, going, yeah, that's about right. That fight, I just knew that I had to retreat to him, not run, not get scared. Because here's the thing, out of all the people I had ministered to, although all the people that we had to counsel, when my husband and I were in ministry together at that time, I had to turn all of that back around to me. I had to tell myself what I would tell parishioners, what I would tell those that would come to us for counsel. And so I said, okay, so now I'm that person. I'm that person who needs it. And you would think, and here's the thing. One of the things that I wrote in one of my books, and and the theme in others, you really have to know your community, because you do know too, as a pastor or first lady, you can't go to everyone. You're really very limited on who you can tell certain things to. And at that time, although my husband at that time, or he become my ex-husband, we were still very good, very close, very good friends. And we had a wonderful son. We have a wonderful son. So there was no way that we were not going to be anything but. So that's a nugget right there. Okay. Because I had to pray, Lord, make me a better woman and not a bitter woman. And I'm so glad I did, because the first person I called was him, to let him know what was going on. And the first words out of his mouth was, we will get through this as a family. And then I said, we sure will. And then I called 2 other friends that I knew, who knew the words and the worth of prayer. Because when my mother had just come home, I did not want to set her back by telling her oldest daughter was diagnosed with stage 3 cervical cancer. I just couldn't imagine it. So I needed time, to really reconcile that. My son was in a very prestigious high school where he was a boarding student, and he was due to take his finals 2 weeks after I was diagnosed. And so I said, well, I don't want to tell him now, because I want to make sure that he gets through his studies. So here I am, still the caring leader, the caring person that I am. I was still thinking about other people in addition to what I was going through, and how I was going to strategically set all of this up so that I can have the surgery and tell everyone, and just move on. And it did work out overall. Okay. But I realized first at that time, I could have dropped all of my thinking about others and just solely, think about me. But even going through that, you still have to think about others, because what if I had another thought that I would pass, that I would transition, you still have to think about what that means. So but I didn't give that much thought at all. Okay. I gave more thought to my prognosis and me being on the other side of it. So I started living from my prognosis and not the diagnosis. I'm telling you, the prognosis is what motivated me. I'm rapping now. Momo motivated me.
Yeah.
So that's what definitely motivated me to move forward. And my trust that what I heard was true. And
Yeah.
I moved on from there. So it wasn't, I didn't have time to be sad. I didn't have time to go back because I had already accepted that I was living on the other side of my prognosis. The diagnosis that the doctor gave, I said, I'm going to be on the other side of that. So I'm starting now. I'm not going to wait until I have the surgery. But what I did was every day, I then got all the scriptures on healing. And what I would do is at night, before I lay down after my prayer, I would turn that CD on. Back then we had CDs, for those of you who don't know what it is, okay? But and then we know young people may be listening to this because I'm thinking, I know you're reaching every audience. So I say that for the young people who don't know what a CD is, it was a CD player that I put at the side of my bed. And I then turned on those scriptures and let them play all night. So I was feeding myself with the word of God. I would wake up during the night after I had listened to it so much that I would hear myself quoting the scriptures as I was waking up out of a sleep to maybe go and get some water or what have you. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, and that's what we're supposed to do prior even to having a crisis, right? Get the word inside of us.
Yes.
Meditate on the word, it says, right? That means get it inside your heart.
Yes.
It means to think about it, to ponder it, to like consult God about it. Like, what did you mean by this, right?
Absolutely.
And that gets it inside of us. And then when you have the word in you, like you were saying, you wake up speaking it, and things come up. You can know what to say based on the word, right? And
as it is written.
You're not going to take the report of the world. You're going to take the report of God.
Absolutely. And that's what I had to stand on. I said, no, here I am with 2 death sentences. Whose report do I want to believe?
Right.
And so I knew the report I wanted to believe, and that's the report I stood on.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that's the thing, though. You stood on the word.
Yes.
Yes. And that's this show obviously is about getting motivated, but it's hard not to get into the spiritual realm with this kind of thing, because how else can you beat a death sentence like this without standing on the word, without engaging your faith, right? That engaging of the faith, that faith without works is dead, right? You got to have works to go along with your faith.
Absolutely.
That's taking action. That's reading the word, right? Standing on it, applying yourself, and doing all those things that you did, prayer, fasting, meditation, right?
All the things that the word tells us.
That's right.
It works.
And that's what you got to do. Yeah.
It works. Who thought God knew that, right? And that's the one thing that, my bishop says, he said, what are the 5 pillars of faith? And he'll just throw it out there and we'll say, hearing the word, receiving the word, believing the word, speaking the word, and acting on the word. So taking action and believing. So you just said the same thing.
Yep. No, and that's amazing. I can talk all day about this kind of stuff.
Yes.
But so we've been talking about the Greatness in You book that we read together, and that's where this story is in. That's so powerful. And again, I mean, it not only touches you, right? But it is motivational, because it gets you out there. It gets you to stand on the word. It gets you to take action, to seek a second opinion, to seek a higher opinion, and all of these things that you do. But one of the things you mentioned in the book, and I thought was kind of interesting, and kind of makes sense at the same time. You talked about your weight, and that when you were doing research on this whole, cancer thing, that you saw that weight contributed to 40% of cancer-related issues.
Yes.
I mean, tell us more about that, because I don't even know, like, if people realize that kind of thing.
So I could not understand how, and it just didn't make sense to me. So when I received the phone call at work, okay, and was told that, my surgery was scheduled for the following week, but no one had told me what the surgery was for. I knew I had the biopsy, but no one had consulted with me.
Wow.
I went from biopsy to your surgery is scheduled. And I said, for what? Do you have the right
What?
person?
Right? Why? Huh? I'm fine.
Really?
I'm the right
What
person.
surgery? And then I heard these words, oh my God. And I said, oh, no, no, no. See, you're the hospital. I shouldn't hear those words from you. And then they said, nobody consulted you. I said, no, my doctor is out of town until Wednesday. And I have that in my record. And they looked and said, sure is. They said, Miss Jones, I'm so sorry. And that's when they told me. And so I said, well, you know what? I'll meet with the doctor. And I kept telling him it just didn't make sense. He never mentioned the obesity until, later we were talking. But I had to do some research. So here's the thing. Your doctor may not think of all the things to tell you. So it's going to be up to you to, be led on what you need to do. So I was almost 400 pounds. And thankfully, I'm not now, but I was almost 400 pounds at the time of the diagnosis. And so, but I felt great. I felt that I looked great. If I didn't feel that way, no one else would, but, I did. And so I then started doing the research, and yes, CDC does say that 40% of all cancers in the US have an obesity and cancer link. I'm definitely not saying that everyone who's obese will have cancer, but there is a great chance. So then when I took the information back to the doctor, to the oncologist, he did say yes. He said there are studies that do show that cancer can hide in fat cells. So that's where I knew that I had to make some changes. And that's what another motivating factor, that I know that God said that this would never return again. I still knew that I was in the action phase for me, for my faith, that I had to do some work on my end. Was it enough just to believe? No, I had to put more to that and say, I now have to trust that I have to be a better steward of my body. And that's what made me then go on the quest to start eating more healthy. So I had already given up, red meat and fried foods, but my portion sizes were still too large. So I had to go into prayer, because after 2 years, I was still, severely overweight. And so I went into prayer again. Okay. So I went low and, got before God and went boldly before him. And that's when I sought permission to get help. And that was the bariatric sleeve procedure. Now, is the procedure alone enough to have me release over 200 pounds? No, it still required discipline, because it took me 10 years to release the 200 pounds.
Wow. But that's amazing. And
thank you.
Looking at you, you wouldn't even know that, right? I mean,
that's what people say.
Yeah. The older we get, it's a little hard, to keep that weight off. We got to apply ourselves, right? We got to do something. We got to take action. You talked about portion sizes there. That's pretty critical. Critical. And it's eating the right things, right?
It is, and then not being intimidated by, no matter where you are or who you're with, that I'm okay when I go through if I at an event and go through the buffet line, if that's what they have, for an event, and get the salad plate for everything that I have, so I don't have to get the large plate. I get the salad plate, and that's what I can eat off of, because getting the large plate, everything is going to be in the center anyway. So if they don't have the salad plate, then I imagine that the circle in the middle of a larger plate is the salad plate, and then condense my food to that small portion, because I literally just cannot eat. It won't go down, if I try to eat more than that. So I've learned how to eat. I've learned another thing that was crucial. On the way home from my surgery, the doctor and I were walking down the hall talking. And that's another thing. Have a wonderful relationship with your doctor. So that's another nugget. And when I speak, I like to drop those different nuggets. And that's another one where you literally can have a wonderful relationship with your doctor, that you and him can have casual conversation, or you and her can have these casual conversations. And then I say, doc, is there anything else I need to do as far as, food? I said, I eat tons of soy. And he said, no, no more soy. And I was like, okay, why? Let's stop. Tell me what's going on. And he said you were diagnosed with a very high producing cancer that produced too much estrogen. Soy produces estrogen, so you can never have soy. So don't eat that. So when I went home to check my cabinets, everything has soy in it. Wow. Everything. I couldn't believe it. So I couldn't eat 80% of the things that I had in my cabinet. So of course, when I go to the store, I buy things based on what they say, not only what they taste like, but what they say. Over the years, of course, after being a vegetarian, I still eat fish, but I no longer eat. I tried to go back to eating turkey and chicken. It just doesn't digest well for my system. So know your body. That's another nugget. Know your body. And so I also realized that dairy was not working for me as well. So I had to make sure that now whatever I eat, that is dairy free. In addition, to cut down on the sugars and the carbohydrates. And that's what really helped get the last maybe 70 pounds of release of weight from me, that, brought it down to, the 202. So I still have about another 35 pounds I want to release.
I hear you. No, I've fluctuated on my own, but eating right, and that's the thing. If we actually eat correctly, which is mostly fresh fruits, vegetables, meat, if you want meat, but all fresh, all lean, right? And apply those things and watch some of those carbs and different things like that, and get away from the processed stuff. That's what's killing us. That's what's making us obese, is all this pre-processed stuff that, might taste good, or that's just easy to make, or it's cheap, and that's why we do it. And we're just, tacking another nail in the coffin each time, we eat that stuff. And, hey, I'm preaching the choir because I do it all the time.
People ask me all the time, what do you eat? I said, listen, if it grows in the ground, and if it's comes from a tree, or if it swims, I'm good. And then I'm very limited with, fish as well. So I think I'm down to maybe 2 or 3 that I would probably eat. But I mean, I do such a variety of things, that I'm never bored with what I consume. I'm never bored.
Yeah. So tell us more in the Greatness book. You talk about 2 acronyms, if you will, that you have. One's called SOS and the other one's called PRAY. I mean, on this journey that you had, and again, it was a journey. I mean, it was, a quest, a struggle. It's all of these different things, right?
It was.
This cancer diagnosis, this weight diagnosis, or removal, right?
Yes.
Tell us what you learned and how you came up with those acronyms, and how they can help us, to motivate us to get us up off the couch, or take action and do the things that we're supposed to do to improve our bodies.
So for me, I just thought about all those things that I was going through was just like a storm or a cyclone. They were just hitting, and then I just thought, this is a whirlwind, of a storm. And then I thought, what do you do in a storm? And then that's when you shelter in place. That's the first thing I thought about. So in that sheltering in place is what I needed to do. And that's what made me say, stop, doctors. I need to take some time. So stop and shelter in place is where, that first S. And then I then had to think about all the things that could come against my mind. So anything in a storm, we try to get to a location where we're protecting our bodies, right? And we're mainly protecting our heads. So we're covering our heads to, if anything is, being knocked around off the shelf and, in a time of a tornado or a storm. So I wanted to make sure I removed all obstacles that would come in the way of me hearing and receiving what I needed to. So I had to get my head right. I had to denounce all of those thoughts that said that I would die and say that, no, I have to live. I know the things that I was promised. I have a son that I had to live for. I have grandchildren that I want to see graduate. There was too much in me that I knew that I had to get on the other side of. So I had to make sure that I had my mind right, because, change your thinking, you change your life. I will tell people that any day you can catastrophize about all of the things that you're going through. But if we really rely on the promises that we have received, then those will then get our mind thinking in another trajectory. And then that other S was then to just stand on what you know, stand on the word of God. And that's what I did. I said, so that's my SOS, that I had to stop, shelter in place, make sure I removed all those objects that was going to distort my thinking, and then stand therefore, stand firm and not waver. I was told that a palm tree will bend all the way over to one side to another, but it won't break. I had to have that unbreakable faith at that time.
Yep.
And then what was
firmly planted? Those roots are firmly planted.
The roots are firmly planted. So then the one thing that my acronym for pray is, I have to really just give honor to God and praise him, and that's the P, and then reflect on all the things that he has done. There is no way in the world that I could be where I am without reflecting on the benefits of having known him or knowing him, and then just adoring him. Oh my goodness, just honor him for who he is, and then to really yield fully to his presence and his purpose for my life. I tell everyone all the time, I'm an Ephesians 2:10 woman. For I am created in Christ Jesus, born anew to do the good works that God has already predestined, planned beforehand, taking the steps that leads to the good life that he has already prearranged and made ready for me to live. I'm paraphrasing the Amplified version. So I said, I'm an Ephesians 2:10 woman. So if it's already been planned, who am I but to follow those steps? And that's what I do. So my SOS was because I was going through a storm, but like I said, I can, just start thinking of woe is me, or I can think, whoa, God in me, God in me. I'm going to wait. I'm going to listen. Every day I say these words: Holy Spirit, teach me to hear. Holy Spirit, teach me to listen.
Amen.
So yeah.
Amen.
I need to hear.
That's that. And I love that acronym for pray. I mean, if we took that to heart and did those things when we pray, I bet our prayer lives would change. If we come to God with praise, with reflection, with adoration, before getting to the why of ourselves.
Right? If you get there. Right. Sometimes this order just, you're going to stay in that, so I said, if you get there. So yeah, I'm okay if I don't. If I stay in that.
Your why was also yield, right? Just
yield.
Listen, right? Yes. It's not about me. It's about shut up and listen, see what God has to tell you, and then go out in faith and do what he's told you to do.
And
I want people to know and to be clear and to understand, because this might be the first time people hear this kind of thing, and they might think kind of oddly about stuff, or they've heard or seen different things about people that are being ridiculous about their faith and not listening to doctors. But that's not you. You listen to the doctors,
Absolutely.
You went and sought God about it. You went
Yes.
back to the doctors and you had the surgery. You
Yes.
still stood in faith the whole time, and God took care of that.
He
So
did. He
God
really did.
uses doctors just as much as he can touch you right where you're at and heal you too.
He could
Right?
have. I have friends who have been miraculously healed and went back to the doctors and there was nothing there. But I went back and was, had another biopsy, and yes, it was still there. But guess what? The spread has stopped.
Right.
The
Well, that's the
spreading
thing.
has stopped.
Us standing on our faith, but yet still doing the things that are like, sensible, mindful, whatever
Sure.
else, right? We
Yeah.
can walk in faith and you still not in stupidity. you know?
Exactly. I trust that he has positioned. Like I said, I highly respect doctors, but my partnership. I do everything but wear the white smock when I go to the doctor's office. I promise you, I've purchased one, because if at any time a doctor feels that I am not their partner in my health, I then want to put on the jacket and say, does this make you feel better? Okay. Because listen, you have to accept my partners. My doctor has partners. Well, if I'm ever hospitalized and he can't get to the hospital, he will send one of his partners to come. Well, my partner is always God. So
Right.
I have to consult him, okay, on what is going on with me. So we're in partnership, but I let all of my doctors know that up front. I do. So I tell them I may not have gone through the education that you have to become a medical doctor, but I promise you, I am your partner in my health. So
Mhm.
nothing happens without us having a discussion. And then me, if I need to take the time to take that time to discuss it with now my partner.
Mhm.
Okay. So I want people to know, if I can let your audience know this, please never be intimidated by the doctors. They are there to help you. But if you have one who will not listen to you, who will not take your word, or who will patronize you, it's okay to let them know that. I have had a doctor where I've had to say, hey, doctor, please have a seat. Let us talk. And when I did that, it really brought a greater respect to our relationship. And then I said, I promise you, I don't make appointments just to keep you company. Okay. Or for you to charge my medical insurance. Not at all. This has to be a two-way street. So never be talked down to, but be spoken with. And you can have that relationship with the doctor that you trust. You teach people how to treat you. And that's what I've had to do with my doctors. And I've only think I had to, tell one, goodbye. And before I did, I let them know why. And then they just said, I'm so, they apologized or what have you. But by that time, it was too late, because we had tried to establish that along. So I had to let them know that I'm here to sign for my records to go somewhere else. And then he happened to be out there. He says, there a reason why? I say, yes, the same conversation that I've been having with you. And he was like, no, wait, I'm sorry. And I said, a little too late. And I was okay to leave.
And that stuff happens, but that's the thing. So now you're taking a leadership role
Leadership.
in your life,
Yes.
and we all need to do those things, right?
We
So
both.
that's what your company is about. That's what a lot of your teaching or coaching and that kind of thing is about. You mentioned using coach doctors as a tool now, which is great and
Yes.
awesome. And in there, I really liked your definition of leadership, because it says it is the ability to influence others to successfully work together to complete a common goal. And you just
Absolutely.
said that about the whole doctor thing, right?
Yes. Yes. I
And if
believe
we
in partnership.
and that's how you talk more about people working together in like the work environment and stuff like that, and it's so true, because we need to have that like mutual respect working with
Absolutely.
one another.
Yes.
We can't be. I mean, I'll confess, I'm a bit of a taskmaster. I'm all about like do this, right?
Mhm.
But You've got to know who you're working with,
Absolutely.
and how to work with them, and what you can task them with, and all of those different kinds of things. And I especially believe in when with leadership, part of our leadership, right, is to build up those that we're working with, right? And
Absolutely.
that's kind of what you're talking about here, that influence to successfully work with others to complete a common goal, right? If
Absolutely.
I equip you in how to do this thing, now I know that you can handle it because I've taught you, and I'll give you all those things, you know?
Absolutely.
And then it just becomes easier because I've taken the time to show you, to equip you, you know, and to entrust that, and then it usually goes so much better in that working relationship and that leadership, you know. Um, and you even likened stuff earlier to being in the ministry. So
Yes.
you have two different strategies, and while we still have time, if you want, I want you to just briefly talk about those. Talk about success and power up, another acronyms, and they're just so powerful. If you want to go ahead and share what you want with people.
Just with the whole success thing, those are 7 strategies that I use to really help a leader stay focused on their self-care success. Okay, so that's mainly what it is. It's really just giving. I love using acronyms, and we were trained by Les Brown, so the acronym king there. And so, in thinking about that, when I thought about what made me successful with my weight release, it was really, and I use the word weight release. And here's another thing too. I never say that I am a cancer survivor, but I always say that I'm a conqueror of cancer, because to say anything after I am, then we become. And so I always tell people that I am a conqueror of cancer,
There you
because if
go.
I announce that I am a cancer survivor, then I am taking ownership of it. And that's something I never did. I appreciated the doctors, but I never took ownership of it because I started living on the other side of it. That was the one thing. But one of the things that in iC.A.R.E leadership, not only do we aid aspiring leaders, professional women in leadership, to maximize their leadership influence, also while caring, cultivating authentic relationships to engage and empower, we also walk alongside of them in their self-care success. And the whole thing is, it's one thing to care about those in your care, but if you as a leader are not caring for yourself, what good are you going to be to anyone? You will burn out. And we have so many leaders that are in positions, especially pastors, okay, lay people. There are great statistics on that, on people who are in very powerful and prominent positions, who will not look out for themselves, or are under so much stress that they will not take the time to really make sure that they have success in their self-care. So very quickly, self-care is the number one, thing that we have to do. And whatever that means for you, if it means going to Arizona, to Sedona, and, sitting there on a rock and just really looking out and taking in the scenery without your cell phones and all of that, do it. Okay. If it means just going, for a walk in the park, or walk by your favorite lake, and just really be present and take that in, whatever self-care means for you is what you do. And then you want to update yourself on your numbers. Know your numbers. I knew how much I weighed, even when I was almost 400 pounds, but I also had to know my blood pressure. I had to know my cholesterol level, my A1C levels. Update yourself on your numbers. Many people are not going to the doctors because they don't want to know the numbers, or they run from the scale. Don't run from it, run to it, so that you will know that. And then that first C is care, cultivating authentic relationships with yourself. Cultivate authentic relationships to empower and to engage yourself first before you do that with others. And then calendar yourself. We have all types of devices and, things that will help us to remember important meetings. We have email, we have our calendars, we have, these smart watches and all of that goes off that tells us it's time. So what you have to do is be intentional about calendaring yourself. Okay. And then that E, lead by example. Lead by example. Do you know the power of suggestion? Oh my goodness. I would literally put a banana on my desk or bottled water. And what people would look at, they'll go, oh, Lisa's about to drink her water. Oh yeah, you know what? I need to get some water into. You know what? I haven't had any fruit and I don't know when. I hadn't said a word. I hadn't said one word. All I did was put a bottle of water and a piece of fruit on the edge of my desk. And of course, as people are walking past my office, or if they come into my office, then they go, oh, it's almost like I should have had a V8. And so those are just some of the things with, and I can, actually for anyone, just giving a few, and there are a few couple more, but definitely will love to, send that to anyone in your audience if they would want the full acronym and everything that it says in that. And then powering up, oh my goodness. Yes. Powering up, that's another thing. And you know what? And I'm calling you Dr. Donato because I feel that. Pastor Donato, that's another acronym I would love to send to your audience so that they will have that as my free gift to them on how to power up at the table of success. Oh my goodness. And that's powerful too.
All right, great. Well, we'll make sure we have all that stuff in the description.
Yes.
So people can grab a hold of that. And yeah, I mean, wow, Dr. Lisa, it has been a whirlwind, really, just hearing your story and embracing it and going on that ride, that journey that you went on. I mean,
thank you.
How amazing. And to have gone through what you did up till now, right? And to be here today with us, cancer free, you removed your 200 pounds, and you're firmly standing on the word, and you've got your leadership company. I mean, all of these different things are a huge testimony to you and your faith and everything else, right?
Yes.
So I just want to give you one last opportunity. If we missed anything that you want to share with anybody before we finish out and close here today, and anybody that you want to say who needs to work with you or tell more about your company, whatever it is, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so very much. And let me tell you, this has been a wonderful opportunity. I am so going to hang up from here and really just go back to the woman with the issue of blood. I'm going to go and read that story of the woman who needed to touch the hem of his garment, actually, the same thing, and I just really, thank you for using that analogy when you were describing me, because one of the things too that I, don't tell the other side of the story yet. And that's something that I, definitely will start doing, was that I still had to go through 6 months of chemo, still going through 6 months of chemo. And the pain was excruciating. That's going to be in part 2 of another book. Okay. At another time. And then to lose all of my hair. I was bald as a baby. I looked like Mr. Clean. And that was the first time I cried. Then I said, well, Lord, is it vanity? But then I remember, well, you know what? They wear wigs. You're going to have to wear one. You learned how to draw when you were a kid. So learn how to draw your eyebrows on. And listen, they have lashes now. Learn how to put them on. And I did all of that and then kept it going because I realized I am on the other side of this. I may have gone through the storm. I may have gone through the pain. I may have gone through. You hear me? Going through means you're still moving. You haven't stopped. You're still moving. So go through, but it's how you respond to going through that will be the success of your outcome. Going through requires a response, not a reaction, because a reaction requires no thought. It requires no thought at all. And it have you to do things that are irrational, but you want to take the time. You heard me earlier say, I need time. I knew that. And whatever time it only took 3 days. But look, we're here today because it only took Jesus 3 days. Okay.
That's right.
The significance of my 3 days was wow. That's all it took. The Lord said, I'm not going to take all this time. On the third day, I'm going to tell you what I have for you and have planned. So that's it. And I love leading by the power of my example, never by the example of my power. It is so much in me to make sure that people know that I am under full covenant with God to do just what he has called me to do. I am motivated by the works that he has already planned well beforehand.
Oh.
As a leader, I love helping leaders transform and humanize the employment experience, head, hands, and heart. It is not enough for you to see your employees every day and to just look at them as worker bees. We have to see that they too have a purpose for their life. And you do not want to be the leader to stand in the way of their purpose, but to encourage their purpose to move forward. You want to be the one that, because they've crossed your path, that you have given them hope for their future, that you have given them hope for the things that God has called them to do, that you will make sure that you are not the one who is going to be a stumbling block for them. I know that for every position I have held in working for the federal government, these 30-something years has been an assignment, and I do not take that assignment lightly. So every day I am looking to see how I can partner with God. And this is how he has shown me for my purpose. He has called me to leadership. He has called others to leadership. So people who are called to leadership hear my voice so that they know that I am there to help steer them in the right direction, to look at people holistically. Still get the job done. You can be compassionate and still competent and confident to get the work done. Pastor Donato, you said that you a taskmaster. So am I. I'm about getting the work done. I'm about making sure the tasks get done. But I'm also about realizing that there are human beings on the side of getting that job done. Right. So I make sure that I partner with them on how we are going to move this task. So you can get in touch with me and hear more about what we do at iC.A.R.E Leadership at LisaYvetteJones@gmail.com, LisaYvetteJones@gmail.com. My website is in the process of being revamped, but that is under Lisa Yvette Jones, YVETTE Jones.com, LisaYvetteJones.com. I'm also on all social media as Lisa Yvette Jones. Thank you so very much, Dr. Donato, for this opportunity. I keep saying that.
Yeah, no, that's good. And that's so true, because I think we're starting to get there in the workplace. But, like if I'm ever over somebody in that arena, I always try to make sure that, their needs are met, or that they know that other things are important. I mean, work might be important to a degree, but your livelihood, your family, your mental health, your physical health, all of these things that we've been talking about today, those are more important. And if you need to take time off for that stuff, you need to do that, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that was what your whole, success and healthcare, the iC.A.R.E part was all about. That's what we need to focus on. Yes. And then, the one other thing you mentioned here about, with God, I always like to say, God won't bring you to something unless he's going to bring you through it.
Come on. Amen. That is true.
So that's what we got to remember, that we might come up to that Red Sea like the children of Israel did, but we need to take that faith. We need to take that action to step forward, and then the seas will part and we can walk through on dry land.
Absolutely. And can I say this? And I just want to say this to your audience. We never know what we can handle. We never know, but I do believe that God prepares us for it.
All right, well, Lisa, yeah, we'll definitely have to have you back and do this all over again because it was fantastic.
Thank you so much.
I hope everybody that watched this got something out of it, and we'll check out your website, your social media, all that,
Yes.
and you know, get to learn more about your story, about your organization and everything, and more motivated. So until
Thank
next
you.
time, be blessed, everyone.
Bye.
Follow Donato on Facebook and LinkedIn at Donato Parisi, or go to donatomotivates.com. Remember, you can be anything you want and desire. All you have to do is get motivated.